You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. Bitcoin, Ether, Solana, Doge, and more. Cryptocurrencies and digital assets are taking the financial world by storm. This exploding market provides everything a savvy trader needs: volatility, volume, and liquidity, provided you know how to find it. That's where we come in. Welcome to the Crypto Rundown. Each week, we'll break down the latest trading activity, trends, and developments throughout the world's leading crypto derivatives markets. If it's moving the crypto markets, then you'll find it on the Crypto Rundown. The Crypto Rundown is brought to you by Amber Data. If you're entering the digital asset class, you'll need access to granular on-chain and market data from multiple venues to power research, trading, risk management, and compliance. Amber Data delivers comprehensive data and insights into blockchain networks, crypto markets, and decentralized finance, empowering financial institutions to apply traditional finance methods to digital assets. Amber Data eliminates the infrastructure setup, integration challenges, and maintenance headaches to access digital asset data, reducing cost and time to market to enter the digital asset class. Learn more and download their digital asset data guide at www.amberdata.io. Now it's time to dive into the exploding world of crypto derivatives. It's time for the Crypto Rundown.
All right, everybody. That music means we are back once again to talk all things crypto. Yes, it is time for the Crypto Rundown. My name, of course, Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com, as well as, of course, from the ever-scintillating Options Insider Radio Network. Reminding you, if you like what you hear, the Crypto Rundown or the full network, whichever one you're beaming in on, then make sure you leave a rating and review. More people out there all the time looking to discover this content and indeed the full network. And of course, if you want to go above and beyond, you want more content in your lives, including a lot of great pro Q&A sessions that touch on crypto in some capacity, then you know where to go. Theoptionsinsider.com/pro is the place to go to begin your journey to the dark side. Join us. The dark side's pretty fun. So theoptionsinsider.com/pro to learn more. And let's all learn who's joining us today on the old Crypto Rundown. I am pleased to welcome on once again our old friend, Mr. Bill Ulivieri from Cenacle Capital Management. Mr. Bill, welcome back to the Crypto Rundown program, sir.
Good afternoon, Mark. Great to be back.
Yes, a lot to unpack, a lot to get to. So let's do it. It is time for the Bitcoin Breakdown.
It's time to explore the latest trending activity, trends, and developments across the world's leading crypto market. It's time for the Bitcoin Breakdown.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Bitcoin Breakdown, the portion of the show where we do just that. We break down all the action in the world's leading digital asset. Yup, it's the big dog, which is Bitcoin, looking a lot bigger to kick off the show than it did this time last week. Last week, we were just a hair north of 24,000, 24,208 to be precise. Today, 28,008. So quite the lift out there. 3,800 handles to be precise. So my goodness, Bitcoin getting the bit in its teeth and running with it. The high came earlier today, 28,410. The low came last Wednesday, 24,169. So we didn't really dip too low below the show level last week. That was kind of the floor for most of the week, but to the upside. We just ran away and haven't really looked back. Mr. Bill, you kind of get pride of place. The last time you were on the show back on January 30th, you were talking up everything. You said the crypto winter was over. You said you wanted to buy it all. You were buying it with both hands. And quite frankly, a lot of our listeners thought you were crazy. And here you are, Bill, you get a chance to rub their faces in it, sir. What do you say?
Well, it's not the first time people thought I was crazy, that's for sure. But yeah, it's super exciting. I mean, listen, there's so much to talk about, Mark. I mean, what was happening with the banking system lately and the way the Federal Reserve and the regulators have responded. And my Twitter feed is just lit up with what's going on. And I think that we're dismantling this legacy financial system where money moves at the speed of light. And these old school regional and community banks, are rolling the dice a little bit too much. And we've seen this incredible liquidation everywhere. Every asset class in the last year, complete liquidation and unwinding of risk. And so, maybe have we gotten a little too far in the tooth in the rally? Not yet. I mean, I still think we've got some upside to go. And there's some tokens that look like they've kind of put in the bottom, right? And you got to buy the pullbacks and just hope for the best. Put on the trade, manage the risk.
Let me ask you this. I would have asked you this in the past, and it would have been mostly half jokingly. Right now, it's got a kernel of truth to it. So I ask you this now, Mr. Bill. Has it become the flight to quality assets? Is that what we're seeing here?
Wow, that's really a great question. The flight to quality asset. Well, I would say lately, in the last few weeks, yes, without a shadow of a doubt. It's not really the bond market, although bonds have put in a low from their previous yields from a few weeks / months ago. You know what, Mark? That's a great question. I think it's too soon to tell. I mean, I'm still watching the U.S. dollar like a hawk. We're watching this bank crisis / consolidation go on. Certainly, Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies have enjoyed this flight to quality kind of rally. And there's a lot of things going on. I mean, there's like 6 things going on that could be contributing to all of this. Is Bitcoin really in an upward trend? No, not yet, but it looks like it could be. So let's just give it a little bit more breathing room. Like when you're trading option positions in your short gamma, sometimes you just have to babysit the position and just kind of wait to see how things play out. I think Bitcoin is still in that phase. Like I don't think it's the flight to quality, but it sure feels like it with this conversation going on globally.
You know what? I'm going to put that exact question out to our audience right now. They are the ultimate arbiters at the end of the day, Mr. Bill. So I'm going to throw this up and now. Quick flash poll. We'll let it run for not that long, and then we'll get the results. Going to make it really simple, listeners. Is crypto, particularly Bitcoin and Ether, the new flight to quality asset? Yes or no? And we'll have some hot results by the end of the day. So if you're listening live, listeners, you can get out there and vote. It will probably be live for a few hours after the show. I want to get a couple people in on the podcast side too. So if you're listening on the podcast and you're quick on the trigger finger, head on over to @options. You can make your voice heard out there as well. But I am fascinated to see what you folks think. I have a feeling I know which way they're going to go, Mr. Bill, but you never know these days. The audience can surprise us sometimes. Speaking of surprises, outside of the Bitcoin price level, let's see what other surprises we can find lurking in the data set here. By the way, all this data, all these analytics coming at you, courtesy of our friends over there at Amber Data, amberdata.io, AMBERDATA.io is the place to go to kick the tires and light the fires on these data points and literally a legion more that we don't have time to get to on the show today. You can get lost for hours in their analytics, and that's a good thing. So check it out, amberdata.io is the place to go. First off, if you did that, you'd see the vol ticking up this week, which again, not a huge surprise. We are kind of moving all over the place out there in Bitcoin land, mostly to the upside. So Bitcoin vol on the show last week, a 61. This week, a very hearty 65. So looking nice and frothy, looking nice and healthy out there, especially when you compare it to VIX, which is struggling to maintain its level north of 20, or some of the commodities we talk about on TWIFO every week, which, by the way, if you're listening to this show, you're not listening to This Week in Futures Options as well. One of the few other shows on the network that really dives into crypto in any great capacity. Then check that out. You'd see most of the assets we're talking out over there, with the exceptions of Nat Gas and a few others, are really mostly below 30 from a vol perspective. So 65 is a pretty healthy vol level. And in terms of skew, what are we seeing out there? Last week, we were hanging out negative 1.25. That's after we flirted with a negative 12, over negative 12, actually about 12.15 in between shows. Because, of course, you saw that big drawdown in between episodes there last week. A lot of people spooked. We, of course, saw the banking run begin, that kind of fears of contagion start actually in the crypto space, which drove a lot of that sell-off earlier on. Well, we have swung a long way from a negative 12.15. We are at a healthy positive 5 now. What does that mean? It means we were biased towards the puts back a week and change ago. And this week now, the vol is biased towards the call. Still not an enormous amount, only 5 vol points, but it's nothing to sneeze at out there either. Which means if you're out there looking for some of the more traditional trades that used to be very popular back in the day, let's say covered calls, everyone and their mother loves selling a covered call. You're getting more vol points for that than you were, let's say, a week ago. So that trade might be a little bit more attractive. Of course, the underlying level higher too. So that's going to put a smile on your face if you've owned it over the course of the past week. Let's get on out to Deribit, see what's open for size out there. And no surprise, the calls leading the dance and extending their lead over the puts this week. 260,000 calls open on Deribit this week. That's up 52,000 from this time last week. The puts also gaining, but not quite as aggressive. The puts have 135,000 contracts open. That's up 20,000 from this time last week. And in terms of size positions, what is open for size out there in Bitcoin options right now? Let's find out, listeners. Number 5, we have the 27,000 strike with 17,200 contracts open. That's a newcomer to the top 5, followed by number 4, 23,000 strike. That has 18,000 contracts open. That is unchanged from last week. That's just hanging out right around the same level as last week. Number 3, the 24,000 strike, 19,200 contracts open there. That's up 2,200 from this time last week. Number 2, the 30,000 strike. That seemed kind of outlandish. That seemed kind of extreme this time a week ago. And now here it is at number 2 with 23,800 contracts open. It's up 3,500 from this time last week. And the big dog this week, the 25,000 strike, a now in the money strike from the call perspective. It was hanging out near at the money, actually out of the money last week. 24,600 contracts open there. It's up 3,700. So once again, mostly relevant strikes dominating our top 5 out there in Bitcoin options this week. Let's keep the party rolling out there to Mr. Bill's new favorite product, which is BitO. Bill, I'm always trying to lure you to the dark side of BitO. Have you had a chance to dip your toes in those waters since the last time we chatted?
I would say officially we are, as new assets come on, we're exploring the BitO product and going to be allocating to that. We haven't done it yet. We're still with our friends at Grayscale, but we're way more open. Actually, thanks, Mark, to having conversations with you to the BitO product and to the Bitwise products as well. So again, as new assets come on, we're going to be, rather than just hyper-focused on the Grayscale product, but just allocating our 1 or 2%, 3%, across maybe 3 products. And so it's been really fun watching it. It's been great learning and seeing the ETF space become more populated and active. But again, we're, to a fault, we're faithful to the people that brought us to the dance. So we're holding firm, still leaning more to the Grayscale product because of the discount to net asset value than the BitO products. But again, my mind is open. I'm willing. It's in the database. It's in the models. We're just waiting again for some new assets to come on board that are interested in, adding a 2 or 3 or 4% position to Bitcoin to the portfolio.
I should get a commission from those ProShare folks. For all the folks I'm luring to the dark side of BitO here, Mr. Bill. We'll get you there.
You should.
But, it's interesting. You mentioned that discount. I can see, that's attractive. It's also probably a little bit alarming at the same time because you're like, how deep can this discount go?
Absolutely. And you have to live by the sword and die by the sword. We've seen that discount be a 33, 35, 40, 50% premium, in the bull market run. So if crypto winter is over and God willing, the SEC caves on their position with and permitting Grayscale to convert to an ETF. This thing might even go to the Supreme Court. So we'll see how it goes. I read the testimony by the defense of Grayscale, and again, I'm not just necessarily talking his position. I'm just saying it's interesting because they're in the lead here, and to say how can the SEC permit the Chicago Mercantile to have a derivatives based off a spot, but not have a spot product. It's just inconsistent with the rules of the SEC themselves. So we're all kind of waiting to see how this plays out. But like I said, this has been a year of extremes, so anything can happen.
Speaking of seeing how things play out right now in the early voting, Mr. Bill, it's 50-50 exactly for our poll. Is it a flight to quality assets? So our audience evenly split on the issue, Mr. Bill, but we'll see as the show progresses how that evolves. Let's see how our old friend Bitto is evolving. And spoiler alert, it's up a lot since this time last week. It was up about 2.5 points, trading right around 17.25 when we kicked off the show. That ADV also soaring, listeners. It was 62,000 last week, 82,000 this week, up another 20,000 contracts a day. And it seems like they're blowing the doors off that again today. Already 132,000 contracts on the tape out there in Bitto land. So people are slinging themselves some Bitto options, Mr. Bill. The big dog out there today, 7,100 of the April 18 calls expiring on the 6th. So out there in the weeklies. Intriguing stuff out there for Bitto. What's the vol like in Bitto out there? Actually intriguing. So Bitto vol this week, it was a 61 last week and hanging out at a 65 this week, up about 5 points. So still staying frothy out there in Bitcoin vol land. And let's look at the top positions out here. Let's do a top 10 because this is a pretty active product out there. Number 10, we've got 14,000 of the April 9 puts. Number 9, 15,000 of the June 20s, the June 20 calls. Number 8, 16,000 of the Jan 65s. Bill, is that you? Have you been loading up on the Jan 65s? That sounds like something a Bitcoin bull would like, sir.
No, that's not me, but I can certainly see why they're doing it.
You're like, tell me more about these Jan 65s, says Mr. Bill. Number 7, 16,000 of the June 5 puts, so going in completely the other direction. Number 6, 18,000 of the April 15 puts. Number 5, 19,000 of the Jan 18s. I can certainly see those a heck of a lot sooner than I could see the Jan 65s. Number 4, 20,000 of the Jan 25 calls. Number 3, 24,000 of the Jan 15s. Number 2, 25,000 of the June 8 puts. And the new number 1, we talked about these last week, listeners. It seemed like these were the hot and heavy contract last week. It seemed like they were going to take the top spot, and that is indeed the case. The April 10 puts out there. Listen, I'm going to look really quickly, see if I can find it, just see what's going on. By the way, there are 69,000 of those April 10 puts open. And looks like the lion's share of these Jan 65s were opened about a month ago. On February 17th, we can figure out what they were up to. They were trading for a nickel to a dime. Looks like somebody actually bought them for a dime at one point. So there you go, listeners. Would you buy those for a nickel and or a dime? Let's see, where was Bitto at the time? Bitto was 15.25. So about 2 points lower than it is right now. Still, you need quite a few more points to make those 65. Now, again, you don't need to get to 65. That's a misnomer. As you start moving up, those will start to increase. There's all sorts of factors that work at their vol and skew and everything else. So you don't need a big run of 65, but you do need a healthy pop beyond a 17. But still, some
risk manager told a trader, you need to buy some upside risk, and I don't care what you buy, but just get your numbers in, right? And so
there you go.
Okay, I'll just pay a cabinet for the 65s or 5 cents for just to cap off the risk.
Spoken as a former risk manager yourself, Mr. Bill.
Yes.
You tapped this guy on your shoulder. You said, "Hey, those 65s are looking pretty good. Why don't we buy? 20,000 of those bad boys?"
It's just to make the margin go down.
Interesting stuff. You like those, listeners? 65s for a nickel. You know, we have been jokingly, but not really that much of a joke anymore. They actually are more of a relevant trade, talking about the quote unquote garbage calls in VIX, par and above, so 100 and above, and also garbage puts, so way out of the money puts in the S&P that you could trade for similar levels and how they perform or perhaps don't perform in certain environments. We have some people on the network who are starting to be adherents of that strategy. So it's maybe it could be something like that at work, even though I think Bill's probably right. It probably is more of a cover your butt type trade out here from a risk perspective as we cover up Bitcoin and keep on rolling right on into the altcoin universe.
It's time to move beyond Bitcoin and find out what's moving the rest of the crypto marketplace. It's time to boldly venture into the altcoin universe.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the Altcoin universe, the portion of the show where we break down everything going on out there outside of the big dog, which is Bitcoin, except for right now, of course, when we talk about the top 10 from a market cap perspective. Right now, it's costing you about $8.5 billion worth of market cap to break into the top 10. That gets you to our old friend Solana. It's looking a little bit more robust than it was a couple of weeks ago, hanging out at a 22, almost 2240 or so when we ran these numbers. So certainly a long way from the sub 10 it was back in the height of the FTX debacle. Number 9, our old friend Dogecoin, $9.5 billion. So looking nice and robust out there. Number 8, Polygon, $9.9 billion. Number 7, it's Cardano, $11.6 billion worth of market cap. Number 6 is XRP, 19.1. Number 5, it's USD Coin, 35, almost 36 billion. Number 4, BNB, 53.5 billion. Number 3, Tether, 76.2 billion. Number 2, it's ETH, 215 billion. And the number 1, the big dog, finally over $500 billion again, Bitcoin, 537 billion worth of market cap. And ETH not wanting to be left behind by Bitcoin, saying, hey, watch out for me. Last week on the show was 1674, coming into the start of the show today, 1765. So up about 91, almost 92 handles from where it was this time last week. Of course, coming off the highs a lit00 bit. It got up over 1800, 1832 to be precise. That was on Saturday, and the low came once again on Wednesday, right around 1620. So over a 200 point, about 212 point range on the week for ETH. So that is nothing to sneeze at, which is managing to keep the vol pretty close to the same level. It was about a 65 this time last week and a 62.5 out there in ETH land. But before we get more into that fun, Mr. Bill, ETH feeling the crypto roller coaster out there, rocking and rolling just like Bitcoin. What's been catching your eye out there in ETH this week, sir?
Well, again, Mark, we look at this liquidation that happened last year in all technology stocks, whether it's MicroStrategy's, Coinbase, the QQQs, everything just really had this massive sell-off liquidation last year. We have not traded below those lows in 95% of all these tokens, and Ethereum is no different. I kind of like the way Ethereum looks. It made that low last June, at the end of June. We made another low, a higher low in October, and it looks like we may have made a higher low recently. So listen, I'm still too soon to say, but is the crypto winter over? I think so. It doesn't mean it's going to rally to, like a chimney stack, go straight up. I'm just saying, I think things are shaping up here. There's a lot of positive things to say about this alternative asset class, Mark, across the board.
Lot to say indeed. Let's say some of it right now. We talked about the vol already. Let's talk about the skew. Same deal as Bitcoin. If anything, it's even more pronounced. On our last show, we were still hanging out negative. We were kind of flat to slightly negative on Bitcoin. We were more pronounced on the negative side on ETH last week. A little over -3, about -3.15. Coming into start of today's show, almost a +5 as well, 4.7. So you're talking over a 7-point vol swing on the skew. So that's nothing to sneeze at out there. Again, biased towards the upside, which makes the fact that most of our OI on Deribit is down this week kind of interesting. We have about 2.76 million calls open. That's down about 20,000 from this time last week. And the puts 974,000 open. That's down about 26,000. So people taking off some paper out there this week on Deribit. On the ETH side, let's look to the top 5 size positions. What's open for size? What are you folks trading out there in ETH these days? Let's find out. Number 5, it is the 2,000 strike with 214,000 contracts open. That is a newcomer to our top 5 this week. So slotting right in there at the bottom. Number 4, the 1,600 strike, 222,000 contracts on the tape. That is down 6,000 from this time last week. And then number 3, the 1,900 strike, 251,000, just slightly over 250,000 contracts open there. That's down 7,000 this week. Number 2, our old friend, the 4,000 strike, 254,000 contracts open, kind of hanging out unchanged. Go figure, no one really wanted to take off the 4,000s this week. That leaves number 1, the 1,800 strike, 288,000 contracts open there. That's down 6,000. Again, that was and still is pretty much the at-the-money strike. We got past it for a little bit on Saturday there, but we have flirted with this 1,800 strike, so not exactly surprising perhaps that it is number 1 out there for a lot of you out there slinging the options. Mr. Bill, before I get into some of these other assets, I know whenever you join us on the show, you always bring some fun altcoin in your back pocket. So what else is catching your eye in the altcoin universe this week, sir?
All right, that's a great question. So here, remember at the beginning of the show, you said people thought I was crazy for saying X. Well, here's one more kind of.
I thought I just said people thought you were crazy, period. That was the end of the sentence.
Okay. Okay. So again, as someone who loves looking at charts, definitely more of a technician than the fundamentalist, even with my own business. I was taught that you cover up the name of a chart. And all you do is look at the chart to say, is it bullish or bearish? Is it in a positive trend or a negative trend? It doesn't matter what it is. When we were on the trading floor, like we didn't care whether it was soybeans, soybean meal, cattle, feeder cattle, pork bellies. Like we didn't care what it was. Just look at that chart, right? And so in that same spirit, I'm going to say, again, I put about 250 cryptocurrencies in this bell curve, right? You're very familiar with the bell curve. It's, you have most of the products are in the center of the bell curve, in the middle of their averages. Then you've got the extremes on the left and on the right. So from my perspective, tokens that I like that are on the far left side that could be a potential buy from a technical standpoint. I'm not going to say I understand them extremely deep and thorough on a fundamental side, on the developer side. I like Engine Coin, which symbol is it EN? EN. I got to take EN or ENJ. New Cipher, which is NU, and Matic. So Matic is a Ethereum protocol that seeks to scale and use a payment system on the Ethereum network. New Cipher is this end-to-end encrypted protocol for applications that are going to run on blockchain. And Engine Coin is a token that is used for non-fungible tokens. It's a way of creators and curators to be able to monetize as they buy and sell and trade using a native token called Engine Coin. So it's ENJ. Those are my favorite short-term. Let's just take a trade. They're oversold and just hooked positive. So they're on the far left side of the bell curve. It looks like they might be going positive. So there you have it. Nothing fundamental, just a technical shot.
Funny because there's Engine Coin, ENJIN, then there's Engine like you would spell it, and there's Engine Coin that is EGCC. So there's two Engine Coins floating around.
This is ENJIN. The symbol is ENJ. It looks interesting to me. It's still in a downtrend, but again, higher lows. Just looks kind of interesting for a quick trade. That's all.
I had a feeling you weren't talking about the one that is trading at 0.000034 right now.
Oh, no, not that one.
At a new all-time high, I should add, of 0.000034. Your Engine Coin hanging out, it's like about 40 cents right now. Is that right? 42?
Pulling it up again right now. Yes, I think, 42 cents. Exactly.
All right. And it hit some all-time highs back in the heady days of 2021. $3.85. Wow. So There you go. It's a screaming deal right now, Mr. Bill.
Well, listen, Mark, nobody really knows which way this thing is going to go, but it just seems to me that if you look at everybody's concerned that these cryptocurrencies are going to zero because they're classified as securities. But what if they are securities? What if this SEC comes up with a new digital platform, a framework that these companies can work in that fits under the SEC guidelines for the most part, like a whole new category? I think that these things, this is not going away. Blockchain, cryptocurrency is not going away. Now, the question is, how do we bring it into the fold of regulation? And I tell you, it just seems to me that there is still incredible upside potential, even for all these projects that seem only trading 0.00005 cents per token.
That's where the action is. These sub-penny tokens out there. So you like Engine Coin? I'm curious. Hit us up. Let us know. Let's go out to some of the other ones you may have heard of. Solana, like I said, getting the lift this week, 20.5 roughly when we ended our show last week, about 22, almost 22.40 this week's up about 1.8 points or so on the week. So an intriguing week out there for Solana. Continues to maybe try to scratch and claw its way back from the abyss. XRP, 37.5 cents this week, about 37 cents last week. Up about half a cent out there for XRP. Again, everyone's still waiting for some resolution out there on the whole Ripple debacle. Dogecoin, everyone's favorite, 7.2 cents last week, 7.17 cents this week. So a huge swing in Dogecoin. Litecoin, 82.3 last week, about 80.4 this week. So down about 190 on the week here for all things Litecoin. A couple others really quickly. Cardano last show, 34.5 cents. This week, 33.6 cents. Polkadot, $6, pretty much even. 6.22 this week's up about 22 cents. And everyone's other favorite, Shiba Inu, a whopping 0.00001 on the show last week, and it's pretty much the same this week. All right, before we get out of here, let's answer some of your crypto questions.
You've got questions about crypto. Who doesn't? It's time to find out the answers to your crypto questions.
All right, Mr. Bill, first let's see if we can pay off our poll out here this week. We asked you folks, we're at the top of the show, is crypto the new flight to quality asset? Guess what, Mr. Bill? Our audience, towards the end of the show, still exactly split 50% each. Yes and no. So I would hope we would get some insight, get some answers from our audience, and they're just as split as you and I, Mr. Bill.
Well, what can I say? Again, there's some very exciting things that have happened, and it seems like risk is on across all asset classes. So I hate to classify it as a flight to quality just yet, but again, baby steps, Mark. We're very impatient beings, but I still think. Listen, oh my gosh, Bitcoin traded like $3 or $4 billion of notional value or more from Friday's close until Monday's open, when the banks were closed, and all this news. So we have again this new financial system that's being built parallel. And is it a flight to quality? Maybe, but boy, there's $4 billion of financial transactions that the banks are not monetizing. So they better do something soon. You know where I'm at, and I'm all in with this, just like I think you are. So I can't be objective about this. I see things.
You see it on your horizon. I can't blame you. Yeah, that's a good point, though, that if you wanted to do something this weekend when all this news was breaking, you were limited in your options, pun intended. It was kind of crypto and not much else. So There you go, listeners. Literal weekend risk out there these days.
And the FDIC took over Signature Bank that had a cryptocurrency platform called Signet. I mean, they were able to of a company that was facilitating cryptocurrency conversions to US dollar. I mean, on a massive scale. So, there's a lot going on behind the scenes. And even Barney Frank, who's a board of directors on Signature Bank, I think it was, or Silvergate Bank, was like, hey, we didn't deserve to get taken over. Like this, we're not insolvent. We just have an unrealized loss from owning U.S. Treasuries. Thank you.
Yeah, I know. So, who could have foreseen back in your risk manager days, Mr. Bill?
Right.
They're stress testing all these banks, right? Who could have foreseen if you load up on billions of dollars worth of 10 years and they raise rates aggressively? Who could have foreseen that would have a negative impact on that, right? That's a pretty obvious stress test, you would think.
Basel III Accord says that U.S. Treasuries and government debt is a zero risk score. So just load the boat, zero risk-free U.S. Treasuries, right? Well, wow. That trade didn't work out for them.
No, got a little bit of row risk on there. We were just talking about one of our other shows just this morning about how if one of those people at those banks had the wherewithal to maybe put a put in your back pocket or two on all those treasuries you're sitting on, right? Hey,
exactly.
That would have been that should be mandated. You should have someone at the bank know how to do that, right? I don't know. It's Credit Suisse, for God's sakes. They created millions of vol products over the years. They know a thing or two about structuring derivatives. And yeah, they let that one just apparently run between their fingers. I don't know. That one boggles the mind to me. Instead, let's keep on rolling. Let's go out to the live, Mr. Bill. Mr. Nichols wants to get at you. Nichols wants to know, how does Mr. Bill feel we've seen... let me start that over. Does Mr. Bill feel we've seen the extent of the fallout from the FTX meltdown, or are there still some more shoes left to drop? Before you answer that, Mr. Bill, let me set the stage with a story. I was down at the FIA Boca conference this past week. I haven't been there in about 4 years, so it's been quite some time. And I heard some stories about last year's event and how it was, shall we say, ripe with crypto names. A lot of the traditional futures folks weren't too appreciative of that, I don't think. And then B, the marquee stage presentation, Mr. Bill. Take a guess who it was.
It was our buddy Sam Bankman.
Yes, it was. FTX. It was your buddy SBF. Apparently, he was getting interviewed by A-Rod from the Yankees.
Oh, man.
So if you say that out loud, doesn't that just sound like you're at the height of some bubble right there when you hear that kind of nonsense? But that was the marquee stage presentation last year. Now, of course, everyone is racing to disavow it. And even though FIA took a bunch of money from this guy, they're trying to wash their hands of it all. So it's a whole terrible scene, Mr. Bill, but a long way around to saying, what are your thoughts? Nichols wants to know. Do you think we've seen all the shoes, or are there a couple more left to drop?
Boy, there seems to be so many shoes dropping lately that it's hard to keep track of them all. The news moves so fast. I mean, I think from my perspective, people are not even talking or thinking about FTX anymore. They've moved on to Silvergate, Silicon Valley Bank, and Signature Bank. We've got an election coming up in a couple of years. I don't think the administration wants to have a banking crisis or any kind of crisis. I think the stuff's going to go under the rug, although, so probably it will disappear. There's bigger fish to fry than FTX, I think, and going on right now. So, yeah, I don't see FTX as a big deal. Again, memories are short. Politicians don't let a good crisis go to waste. So let's just, put Bankman-Fried on the back burner and focus on what's going on with these next three banks and more coming down the road. I mean, we didn't even talk about First Republic Bank. We didn't talk about the XLF index, that ETF with the financial services, and even the Russell 2000, which has a lot of financial services companies in there. That thing's gotten spanked lately. So, let's just see what happens in the next week. But we're coming into a pretty good time with the market. We're coming into a good time with the election, possibly lower rates, a lower U.S. dollar. I think we're going to put it behind us for 2 years. That's my call.
All right. We'll have to leave it there. Listeners, that music means we've come to the end of another epic sojourn through the world of crypto. But before we go, Mr. Bill, if our listeners like Nichols or others have questions for you about the world of crypto, your thoughts on different assets, maybe they want to pick your brain on some more fun altcoin like Engine Coin, where should they go? What should they do?
Well, visit our website at cenaclecapital.com, or feel free to give us a call at 847-686-4800. We'd love to talk about cryptocurrency. And I finished the book that I was talking to you about. And
well done. Congratulations.
Thank you. So this week I'm uploading it to a Amazon Kindle KDP platform. So it's going to be a self-published book, again, primarily designed for investment advisors, estate planning attorneys, and financial planners. I'm pretty excited.
So people can get their hands on it this coming week?
I think so, yeah. I mean, I've got all my accounts set up. I'm ready to self-publish. I just have to pour myself a pot of coffee and do it. So everything's done. The covers are in. The testimonials of people that have read the book are in. I now just got to wrap it all together and upload it to Amazon KDP, and we'll be good to go.
We timed this poorly. We should have coincided it with the launch of the book. Tell you what, when your book is out and hot and ready, maybe in the next couple of weeks, we'll bring you back on and we'll do an official announcement of the launch of your book and a nice little plug for you. How's that sound?
I would love that. Thank you so much. That's so kind of you.
So look forward to Mr. Bill returning post-haste with his book in his hot little hands. In the meantime, stay tuned to Amazon. You could keep an eye out for yourselves over there. Mr. Bill, of course, Ulivieri. That's a bit of a mouthful. Ulivieri. Type that into Amazon if you're looking for his book. Maybe you can get a good pre-order in for it now. In the meantime, of course, you can always follow him at Cenacle Capital on Twitter, all one word, CENACLE Capital is the place to go. And of course, you know where to go to kick the tires and light the fires on all the analytics we talked about here today. Not just for Bitcoin, not just for ETH, a whole bunch of stuff out there. Not just the analytics we talk about, not just the vol and the skew. There's literally everything you could think of under the sun. We had Greg from Amber Data on a few weeks ago, crunching the numbers on their big white paper they just released. They had some data points in there that I've never seen in any other traditional asset class, including the mean reversion time, how long it takes for Bitcoin futures to go from backward to contango again, so their traditional shape. And that's something I've never seen. They measured it down to the hours. They have the average number of hours before that backwardation comes crashing down, which if you're going to trade the options is a hugely useful data point. So if you like stuff like that, amberdata.io, the place to go to kick the tires and light the fires. You got to get on out of here for today. That will conclude our broadcast day here on the network. Back again tomorrow with our old friend, the Viceroy, Mr. Alex Jacobson, joining us in the hot seat to answer all of your questions over there on another pro Q&A session. If you want to join that, of course, theoptionsinsider.com/pro. And for all of our pro members out there, right, make sure you're getting those questions in. That should be a popular one. And then back again with our usual slate of content throughout the rest of the week until we're back again next Monday, another episode of the Crypto Rundown. Stay safe out there, everybody.
The Crypto Rundown is brought to you by Amber Data. If you're entering the digital asset class, you'll need access to granular on-chain and market data from multiple venues to power research, trading, risk management, and compliance. Amber Data delivers comprehensive data and insights into blockchain networks, crypto markets, and decentralized finance, empowering financial institutions to apply traditional finance methods to digital assets. Amber Data eliminates the infrastructure setup, integration challenges, and maintenance headaches to access digital asset data, reducing cost and time to market to enter the digital asset class. Learn more and download their digital asset data guide at www.amberdata.io. You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.